Ragnarok is here, and we are all excited about it. We knew Fimbulwinter was coming when Sony released the final trailer for God of War Ragnarok during their State of Play last September. Everyone loved it so much that gamers were queuing up in lines longer than the World Serpent just to pre-order it. Now the game has just been released, and boy, it's taken the gaming world by storm. Fans and critics are literally tripping over themselves with giving this game praise. Some have already crowned it Game of the Year, which is already saying a lot since Elden Ring just came out 6 months ago. Others have already called it the greatest video game of all time, with a 10 out of 10 score from IGN and a 94% score from Metacritic and Open Critic. So is God of War Ragnarok really the masterpiece everyone says it is? I mean, this is a game that received nominations and awards back in 2020 and 2021, way before the game was even released. And after about 40 hours of gameplay, I'm ready to give my take on it. So summon the Bifrost and grab your blades of chaos, because we are about to go on an adventure of a lifetime. Okay, so let's talk about the story and narrative.
You watching?
Ragnarok picks up 3 years after the end of the original game. The story follows Kratos and Atreus on their epic quest to prevent the dreaded Ragnarok and uncover the secrets behind Atreus' true origin as Loki, the god of mischief. They are joined on their journey by a colorful cavalcade of Norse mythological companions such as the vengeful Freya, the quipping, all-knowing Mimir, the ever-adorable Angerbroda, and the wise-cracking Brock, along with a slew of other heroes. Their quest takes them through the 9 realms and also puts them against the likes of Heimdall, Surtur, Thor, and of course, the All-Father himself, Odin. Ragnarok has a more robust and dynamic storyline than its predecessor, and it involves an even more massive and larger open world or realms for all you Norse mythology nerds out there. Yet the true strength of its stories lies in its power to take these eternal, all-powerful beings and mortalize them. The father and son dynamics between Kratos and Atreus are explored even further as the two now have a newfound respect for each other, and Kratos has to come to terms with the fact that Atreus is old enough and powerful enough to make his own decisions and mistakes. This, of course, results in their very many fallouts and reunions through the course of the game. I mean, I'm saying that teenagers. Am I right? This vulnerable side of these gods is further accentuated by the stories of the characters they meet along the way, with Thor threading the path of loyal son but eventually deciding to chart his own course, and ends up getting killed for it by his father, who continues the long line of awful father gods, who gets excited about playing dress up and killing their illegitimate children. Shout out to Zeus and Jupiter.
Gave him the wells of the moon to rule, and what has he done? Hunted and destroyed every living creature.
These powerful stories are complemented by some stellar voice acting as the GOAT himself, Christopher Judge and Sonny Suljic.
Run far away from me.
I just want answers.
Both returning to reprise their roles as Kratos and Atreus respectively. What we end up with is a story so moving and thrilling to experience that you are left bewitched even after the end credits roll. Okay, next up is gameplay. The gameplay of God of War Ragnarok is quite identical to its prequel. You tackle a myriad of main quests and side quests or favors, each one bringing you closer to your ultimate goal of stopping Ragnarok or rewarding with XP, crafting materials, attachments, and so on. In both these quests are also sections of platforming, puzzle solving, combat encounters, or boss fights. In Odin's beard, there's a crap ton of boss fights. The puzzles in the game differ from realm to realm, and to keep things from becoming a little stale, the game developers have added some new puzzle solving and platforming mechanics as an upgrade to the ones in the first game. An example of these additions is using the Leviathan axe to freeze geysers, and also using the Blades of Chaos to latch onto platforms with red orbs. Just like in the first game, you get to play as the Spartan god, the legend himself, Kratos, and you're accompanied by Atreus, Freya, Tyr, and others on your quests. However, unlike the first game in Ragnarok, you not only get to play as Kratos, but also as Atreus in certain sections. While playing as Atreus, you will also be joined by companions such as Angerboda, who is the cutest girl in the God of War universe. And if you don't think so, then your heart is colder than the highest peaks of Niflheim. Santa Monica Studio didn't try to fix what was broken with the gameplay of God of War Ragnarok. The first game had such incredible gameplay to begin with, so all the developers had to do was double down on some of the great mechanics we saw in the prequel. This is why God of War Ragnarok has a massive open world larger than Thor's Buddha belly, and affords the players the opportunity to explore all 9 realms, including realms that were previously inaccessible in the first game, like Svort Eiffelheim. This, in my opinion, is one of the reasons that makes Ragnarok's gameplay simply incredible. Okay, let's talk combat. Speaking of doubling down, God of War Ragnarok's combat is much more intense than the one of its previous iteration. One of the few gripes about 2018's God of War was the slim pickings it had in its rogue gallery. Well, wipe your sad nerd gamer tears away, because Santa Monica's got you covered. Ragnarok features a whopping 84 enemy types and 16 major boss fights. Great Fat Thor's nipples. That's a lot. Just like in the first game, Ragnarok starts with a god duel in the opening act. Thor trades places with Baldur for this round, and one word to describe that fight is electrifying. The Leviathan axe makes its return as Kratos' weapon of choice. However, Kratos' signature weapon, the Blades of Chaos, can now be found and used from the beginning of the game. Of course, if all else fails, Kratos can still use his fist attack to pummel the living daylights out of the monsters you encounter. Also similar to the first game, Atreus will be there to back you up during combat, and having grown a bit more since the first game, his presence is even handier in fights. Whether it's with a well-timed arrow fire, runic summon, or just a heads up in incoming attacks, figuring out how to best use his abilities may make or break your combat experience. This applies to the other companions in the game who help out with combat, like Freya and Brock. Additionally, Kratos has an array of shields to choose from in this game, as opposed to having just one in the previous game. Each shield is tailored toward your playstyle of choice. The stone wall shield is great for players who prefer a more defensive approach to combat, and even allows you to perform the shield's slam attack after absorbing all the hits the enemy AI dishes out. The Dauntless shield, on the other hand, is better tailored for gamers that prefer to go in guns. Sword blazing. It's great for parrying enemy attacks, giving you the opening you need to send your foes straight to Helheim. Furthermore, like in the first game, there's a plethora of unique armor sets to choose from, like the Dragon Scaled armor, Surtur's armor set, and even the Steinborn set. Which of them is the best armor set in the game? I'll leave you to decide that for yourself. The Blades of Chaos can also be upgraded during your playthrough by collecting special upgrade items called Chaos Flames, while Frozen Flames are used to upgrade the Leviathan axe. Combat in Ragnarok feels better than ever. The enemies punch harder and faster than they did in the last game. This forces you to do more than button smash light and heavy attacks to survive combat encounters. Fortunately, the game helps you up the ante with unlockable skills and runic attacks, which you can slot into your weapons. Runic attacks like the Glacial Rake for the Leviathan axe are great for stunning enemies and turning the tide of any fight. The Blades of Chaos can also be charged before attacks for additional damage. In summation, combat in Ragnarok is even more satisfying than it was in 2018's God of War. Regardless of how deep and interlaced its story is, the developers do not shy away from the bloodthirsty gore and hard-hitting combat that earned Kratos his moniker in the earlier games. This is evident from the addition of new kill animations so graphic and stomach-churning, Shao Kahn would be proud. Ultimately, whether it's from ripping enemies in half with your bare hands or chopping gods apart with your Leviathan axe, you can always count on God of War to deliver a combat experience that leaves you with the bloodlust of a mad titan long after you're done playing it. All right, graphics and sound design. As expected, the graphics in Ragnarok are off the charts. This is even more impressive when you consider the fact that the developers had to create a distinct design for each of the realms. From the mossy green mountains of Svartalheim to the frozen peaks of Midgard, each region presents a spectacle to behold. Just one look at Ragnarok's majestic landscapes and breathtaking vistas is enough to make you thirst for adventure. Bear McCreary follows up his incredible score for the first game with yet another banger. The orchestral theme music of Ragnarok and the ambient sound design is so hypnotic that I found myself yearning to don a Viking helmet, grab a battle axe, and sail off to pillage a medieval monastery or two, you know? Viking stuff. Ultimately, the music and sound design of the game are flawless. They're fantastic condiments to what is already a mouth-watering action-adventure buffet. Okay, lastly is replayability. Despite being a solely single-player game, God of War Ragnarok has massive replayability. In fact, it probably has the most replayability of all the games I've reviewed so far on this channel. Its mesmerizing story, jaw-dropping visuals, and spine-tingling combat make it a game worth coming back to over and over again, especially on harder difficulty. The game also has an impressive lineup of side quests which have the ability to keep you engaged long after the main campaign story has wrapped up. Having already finished the game, I, for one, can't wait to delve right back into its majestical, picturesque world as soon as I find the time. Like the game before it, God of War Ragnarok is a masterpiece. From the story, to the gameplay, to the graphics, every facet of this game seems crafted to perfection. Inevitably, there are always certain parts of the game that could have been executed better, but those areas are negligible in comparison to the bedazzling, expansive world that Santa Monica Studio has created. The game is an incredibly memorable and breathtaking interpretation of Norse mythology, one that I have no problems giving 5 stars to. Do you agree or disagree with my review? Let me know what you think in the comments. Of course, like and subscribe. Remember to ring that notification bell for new updates. Thanks for checking out this video. We'll see you in the next one.
There is much to do. Much to rebuild. Would you join me?
Aye. We'll see to it.